a douchebag, a bozo, a doofus.
I've got green skin, pointy ears, and a turban. Oh yeah, I must look like so many other people.
Inside this fine woman's bosoms,
What is a turban?
no one can hear you fart.
Well,
I tell you what, folks, what a time it is to be alive. Sometimes I wish I was actually dead right now, but that'll be for another time. In fact, the whole week started off with me talking about Sweet Baby Stink, and today, on a Sunday, it is still about that god-awful consultative company. You know, the ones who go around pointing an imaginary gun at developers' heads saying, if you don't make Max Payne black or make this character a different diversity in an ancient white mythology, we're going to do things to you that you wouldn't even be able to fathom. But today, folks, now I've kind of held back from doing a video about the late great Akira Toriyama because sometimes you got to be like Detective Columbo. You just got to sit back, pretend you're looking for that pen on the floor, and then maybe, just maybe, certain things will start to surface on top of the filth that is the cesspool of Sweet Baby Inc. And without further ado, folks, today this video comes courtesy of not just you, but also Miss Helga right here. This t-shirt's actually from Iceland, which is great. A friend of mine got it for me a few years ago. I just said to him, can you find the most basest t-shirt out there with a really sexy Valkyrie? Because Tessa Thompson is no one's idea of Valkyrie. And the look on his face when he came back and he showed me this, I'm like, yeah, perfect. Who would have guessed 4 years later, this thing would be adorning my chest in a way that only just seems, it just seems so right, folks, doesn't it? Well, Helga, you sure have got a great pair of buns, love.
Her voice may be almost as important to gamers as Lara's double pistols, curves, and skimpy shorts.
Kung Fu Hot Dog
is a Kung Fu renegade cop. Now he must defeat the most evil Kung Fu master in the world.
For a modern gaming audience.
Get ready for a new world of unspeakable adventures.
I said, Mummy, I like the way the lady runs.
Get ready for a new world of unspeakable adventures never before shown in a motion picture. Get ready for
Kung Fu Hot Dog.
No retreat, no surrender.
So folks, on the 1st of March, it was sad to hear that Akira Toriyama, the man behind Dragon Ball Z, passed away from a subdural hematoma at the young age of 68. Now people always say, oh, is that young? I thought that would be old. But no, in your 60s, you're still in your formative years. And you know, this guy was responsible for the cultural impact of manga as a whole. Now, I will say straight up, folks, like back in the 80s and the 90s, I was aware of a manga and anime around, but for some reason in the UK, we were just kind of blindsided by it, never really saw much coverage of it until the internet dawned like a decade later. So yes, I was definitely aware, and the Dragon Ball Z cartoons, I'm watching the unabridged version or the abridged versions at the moment on YouTube. They're very funny to watch. And I know this is sacrilegious, but sometimes when you get an English translation of a much loved Japanese cartoon, it's actually funny what you get in those episodes. I mean, if you've heard of localizers, those are the morons that the Japanese folks hire to translate their cartoons for the Western market. But that's in some trouble as well now because all the localizers are trans activists or have that ideology. So the normally straight-based cartoon anime characters you have in those, whatever it is, they will suddenly start spewing forth weird ideologies that the original source character would never ever do in their lives. So I'm kind of glad now that Japan is waking up to that nonsense and firing people who call their cartoons absolute dogpile. But of course, folks, when it comes to dogpiling, Chris Kindred, who I'm sure is still a she, because I did do a video a few days ago where in their bio they refer to themselves as she and they, but I think now they've amended it to just they. And if you go across the internet, when you see articles on Chris Kindred, basically everybody's referring to her as they or him. Now, I've got to give you a word of warning, folks. Chris Kindred's details, contact bio information is out there. I actually found this stuff by mistake. Obviously, not going to publish their phone number, his phone number, because that would get me dogpiled as well. Now, if you're not aware, folks, about a week ago, Mrs. Kindred was in Twitter jail, and then they were released because they breached some community guidelines where they ordered an insurrection against Cabrutus, the gentleman from Brazil who dared to start a curator page on Steam profiling all the Sweet Baby Stink games you have to avoid. All of these games are backed up with links and articles going directly to Sweet Baby Inc.'s website, so all the information comes from there. Nothing is hidden. Of course, now all of that's brewed over in a way that nobody ever expected, where at the moment I'll publish a recent tally of people who are following Mr. Cabrutus. But of course now, since Akira Toriyama passed away, what does Chris Kindred do to get more attention, get the clickbait coming back towards his way and backfiring so hilariously? Toriyama gave us the best and worst black characters in anime in the same series, referring to Dragon Ball Z. It took range to do that. Now, what people are getting upset about is the fact that he's referring to Mr. Popo, who looks black in appearance, but in fact is a Hindu deity, a god that based on a jinn. So clearly, Kindred didn't even know that. And of course, if you're talking about the character of Officer Black, yes, it is a black man, and in my opinion, seems to be based on the actor Bill Dukes from Predator and all those other great assorted movies. He's got those features. Yes, people talk about the black face and the prominent red lips, but when you're animating figures or people like that, then it depends. It's not a racist thing. It might just be you want your characters to stand out in a certain way. And I don't remember ever being offended by that character or anybody else. Again, Kindred and other people online, oh yeah, you got it right, yeah. Even though Mrs. Kindred's tweets are protected, you can still get them online. It's hilarious. People defending her and her opinion. Yes, Dragon Ball Z was racist. It was this, it was that. Kindred, born in the wrong time, obviously, doesn't quite get that. Now, people are coming to her defense, and it's amazing who does actually come out with their spears at the ready to fight against the trolls on the far right who dare to come after Kindred. The same person again who incited a riot against Cabrutus on Steam. So, Kaiser MacDonald, do you know who she is? She works for The Guardian. The Guardian right now, that every time you go on their page, they're begging for a monthly or annual or one-time donation because nobody gives a crap about their publication. They're dog shit. I've never liked The Guardian. Well, for a start, they're never the page 3 girl anyway, so who cares? It's 10 years since Gamergate. Yes, it's true. The industry must now stand up to far-right trolls, says the woman with the short hair looking very mannish. Conspiracy theorists are still routinely targeting and abusing women and woke game consultants. So Sana Amanat, who works at Marvel, allegedly had improper behavior with male colleagues. But because she's Sana Amanat, we can't take action against her. With a small studio currently under fire, the games industry's silence is deafening, much like this opening paragraph. 10 years ago, a game developer's aggrieved ex-boyfriend published a vindictive screed accusing her of trading that for favorable reviews of her indie game. This was leapt upon by the least savory corner of the 2014 internet 4chan and kicked off a harassment campaign that broadened to include all women in video game development Please give me a break. You had women working on Gears of War, on GTA, many other assorted popular games that a lot of men and some women played. So what is this bird talking about? Of course, Keezy MacDonald, as soon as I saw her name pop up on this article, I remembered who she is. She's the woman who worked for IGN. She's the same person who waxed lyrical about Grand Theft Auto 5. Have a listen.
If only because it's otherwise so seamless. It's worth mentioning that when it comes to sex, drugs, and violence, GTA 5 pushes boundaries much further than ever before.
You shitting me? No.
If the morality police were worried about hot coffee, there's a lot here that will provoke moral hysteria.
Hey Trevor, are we still gonna cook that batch? Fuck yeah!
It's rich that she talks about the morality police and the hot coffee incident. If you haven't played GTA 3, I think it is, there's a hot coffee moments that I think you can still actually activate it. It's very funny, and that was when Rockstar Games were at their absolute best. But yeah, she praises GTA 5, doesn't she? She's absolutely in full praise of it. In fact, let's go towards the end of the
and
review.
There is sharp intelligence behind its sense of humour and gift for mayhem. It tells a compelling, unpredictable and provocative story without ever letting it get in the way of your own self-directed adventures through San Andreas. It is one of the very best video games ever made.
I find it very curious that a woman like Keezy MacDonald would even jump to the defense of a cyber terrorist called Chris Kindred, who incites violence against a Brazilian loner called Cabrutus, who dared to have a curator page on Steam. And a credit to Steam for allowing that page to still open, because really, if you want to buy entertainment in future to enjoy as a pastime with your family or by yourself, please, man, let's have video games like we used to. I mean, Chris Kindred, who makes statements like this: the industry is run by robbers, straight up highwaymen. R.I.P. Akira Toriyama. And if you're talking about cultural appropriation, Beyonce is now turning country and western. For me personally, if you want to hear C&W being ruined, try Lionel Richie.
We got Lionel Richie performing here tonight.
Lionel Richie ain't been black since the Commodores, man.
I just wanted to go over to this BBC article quickly regarding the passing of Akira Toriyama. And the newsreader, you can tell she's not of that age or bracket where she's remotely heard about Dragon Ball Z, and for some reason she lets this rather attractive doctor take the reins in the interview.
Dr. Rainer Dennison, a professor in film and digital art
Hey, Doc.
at University of Bristol. Tell us about the legacy that he leaves behind.
Akira Toriyama is one of the most influential manga artists that there has ever been. He's influenced a whole genre of manga in Japan, known as shonen manga or boys manga, which is the most popular in Japan and around the world, influencing creators of shows and manga like Naruto and One Piece, of course, as well.
I like the doc's bedside manner approach. I really would like to have her bedside manner next to me right now. How she just, she's very gentle in her approach about the late Mr. Toriyama and how he made essentially what is a boy's pop culture story. And yes, girls do embrace Dragon Ball Z, but again, it's the trope of the spiky head man. Can't imagine where I got that idea from. She's obviously very knowledgeable, acknowledges the fact that Dragon Ball Z is like a boys culture IP, even though girls and everybody else watch it as well. And she doesn't actually denigrates the fact it's a boys thing. She appreciates what he's done, how Mr. Toriyama was a political activist but was a very private man in real life and had full control of how his characters were used. And Dragon Quest was another game series that he was involved in, you know. So I've got to give the doc here a lot of credit. I mean, she did put the presenter to shame, who, let's admittedly, had no idea or had some vague knowledge about Dragon Ball Z. If Chris Kindred is getting upset about the way black folks were depicted in Dragon Ball Z, this is Warner Brothers, and you could probably guess already who this is a blackened version of.
being depicted with those ethnic stereotypes, including oversized clothing, a shuffle to his movement, and mumbling sentences. This cartoon is also part of the 12 Missing Hairs group, and as explained in the Toonhead special, at the time, this imagery wasn't seen as offensive to the audience, and the character was simply created to be Bugs' foil in the cartoon.
If Chris Kindred gets so upset about Dragon Ball Z's depiction of black people in there, despite the fact that Officer Black is a great character, why isn't he attacking Warner Brothers or Disney for that matter on their depictions? It does make you wonder, right? In those secret basement dwelling vaults in those companies, what other censored material are they hiding? So what a week, ladies and gentlemen, this has been. It's been like a roller coaster. It's been non-stop. I mean, I don't think it's actually going to change next week. But RIP Akira Toriyama. That man has left a legacy behind that can never be equaled or even fathomed. But when you're Chris Kindred and you want to get clout because everybody apparently is attacking you for your crazy woke ideology towards video gaming and trying to change the landscape because you're from a marginalized group of people, which is absolutely untrue, then you, sir, madame, they, them, get what you deserve, which is absolute dogpiling and people laughing in your face. Because let's face it, folks, when it comes to retaliation, a sense of humor is always the best way to deal with these things. And a great pair of fun bags as well. And on that one, folks, if you were me and if I were you, you might want to come back for the next video.
"じゃない